and we're back with Rachel and Dina, Philadelphia Free Library. A lot going on. I love, and you told me in the commercial break, and I have to add this because we love our friends from Yards Beer, that they actually have a Shakes beer.
Shakes beer.
So there's a special local brew, so you could go to the events. We'll have your beer first, and then go to the events.
At some of our young friends of the Free Library, our Ravens group, we're going to have some Shakes beer events, which will be fun. Yeah.
Yards always makes it a little more fun.
We do make it a little more fun. Yeah.
So you're going to start with the first children's book, which is Mr. Wuffles.
Mr. Wuffles. So local author and illustrator David Wiesner, I think he lives out in Cheltenham, he's won the Caldecott Medal for Most Distinguished Picture Book 3 times. This book, Mr. Wuffles, is about a cat who's just not very into any of his fancy high-priced toys. What he's very into is a tiny spaceship full of aliens that lands, and he becomes infatuated with it, to the point where it just ruins the alien spaceship. But then the aliens, they escape, they meet up with some ants, with some very sort of like Caves of Lascaux paintings of like their battles with the cat. It's an almost completely wordless picture book. The aliens, the ants join forces, they defeat the cat. It's really lush and funny, and what's great about it is really young kids can enjoy it, and they can tell their grown-ups the story. So it's
you're like this. It's just so fun to hear you're like the sommelier of reading, books. It's so fun to see you talk about the book. So the next one is The Beat Was Born. When the Beat Was Born.
This is DJ Kool Herc, growing up in the Bronx, from the islands. It's a wonderful use of color to show sound and sort of show how hip hop and DJ culture really got its start. It did just win the Coretta Scott King Award for Best New Illustrator this year. It's a fantastic book. Theodore Taylor III is a brand new illustrator out of DC. It's a fabulous book and really fun if you like hip hop.
Well, they should have sent it with a DVD. That'll be next. They should have put the DVD with it and sold it with the book like they do with some of them.
You can have like a soundtrack to the book.
That would have been really great.
Yeah.
There is a timeline of different DJs in the back, which is really sort of a fun way to see, how do you get from DJ Kool Herc to, Puff Daddy? How does that
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. And this one's Odd Duck?
That is Odd Duck. It is a really easy graphic novel about Theodora the duck. She's very prim, she's very proper, she does what every good duck should do, until one day a new duck moves in next door.
Oh, the new duck.
The new duck is just very sort of free and does whatever he wants, and she doesn't like him at first because he's so odd, but they end up becoming really good friends and appreciating each other for just who they are, which is fun.
And what's your last book, Rachel?
My last book is The Abominables by Eva Ibbotson. She passed away a few years ago. She is just this sort of reigning queen of really interesting middle grade readers. In this book, a young girl and her father are exploring the Alps, like you do, maybe the Himalayas.
Sure, my dad and I, explored the Alps,
Yeah, always just exploring mountains. She gets kidnapped by some Yetis, who are also known as abominable snowmans, and she grows to love them, and one day they need to get to safety, so they take a around-the-world trip in the back of a truck and have adventures along the way. It's a really sweet, really quirky, really funny sort of take on British culture, legends, hunting, and just how to be a good person, even if you are, in fact, the abominable snowman.
Who kidnaps children.
But in a good way.
Oh, okay.
In a truck.
Around the world.
In a heartwarming, caretaking kind of way. Yeah.
And Dina, for you, what are you looking at?
I am going to go so far in the opposite direction and go so dark. The last time I was here, we talked World War II, and look, it's a World War II book. This is Codename Verity. It's a teen book. This is, I never thought I liked books that make you cry. Evidently I do. This is about 2 British agents who are shot down over France, and they're both really young, like early 20s girls. One's the pilot, one is an intelligence officer, and one of them gets kidnapped by the Germans, or captured by the Germans, and she's being tortured. And the first half of the book is her confession of what's going on. And you get so invested in this, and then the second half of the book flips, and it's the other person, and it's the story from the other point of view. Not the German, the other girl who was in the plane. And it is, I haven't read anything like this in a long time. It's really just kind of like reaches into your heart and pulls it out. And it's really a part of the war that we don't hear about that much. It's the British who come over and are helping the French resistance. And it's really interesting. It is actually based in a town that my colleague at work is from. So when I told him I was doing this, he goes, "Oh, I know what that is. I know what this town is." So it really kind of gave me a personal connection to it.
It's the book that everyone in the past few years who's read it has said, I couldn't put it down. I started reading it, and then I just read it until I was finished.
And for you two to be saying that is pretty amazing, because you obviously are, you know, voracious readers.
Yes,
so.
it is quite a wonderful book to read, and it really taught me something about a part of the war I didn't know anything about, and I really came to love both of these characters and was really invested in their lives, which was fantastic. And then another one about two strong characters.
Hold that right there. We're gonna, on the other side of the break, we'll get to that and the other ones with Dina and Rachel. Be right back. And welcome back to Dawn, here with Dina Halick, department head at the Free Library of Philadelphia, and Rachel Freed, children's librarian at the Free Library of Philadelphia. And you were just about to do Darius and the Twig.
Darius and Twig, I'm just going to quickly, it's about two kids in Harlem who know that if they might get stuck there and end up being those guys who sit on the stoop and do nothing for the rest of their lives. So they have their dreams, and they're kind of pushing each other to succeed and get out of there. And it's not as easy as it sounds. But it's a really good book, again, about friendship and pushing each other to succeed and to get to kind of make your life better than it was before, that you can see that it is going. So Darius and Twig, really great. Walter Dean Myers, who is actually going to be at the library this year.
Nice. So great message.
Yeah.
What's Every Day? What's your take on Every Day?
Every Day is the weirdest book in the world. It's so good. It's about A, who wakes up every day in a different body, male, female. He never knows what it's going to be. I keep wanting to call him he, but he's not. It is. So every day A lives a different life.
It's kind of like being a middle-aged woman. You wake up in a body.
You never know.
Wake up in a new body every day. You never know.
But one day A falls in love. And so how do you have a relationship with someone when you are someone different every single day? And so it's just a really fascinating book about the nature of love and who you are. And if you're a different body, a different person, a different gender every single day, are you still you, and can someone love you and recognize that? So it's a really fascinating book. David Levithan is quite prolific, and everything he writes is amazing. But this one really kind of made me stop and think. So
about the soul.
Just about who we are. It's like, is this who we are, or is there something deeper than that you recognize even if I looked like you or anyone else? So this one was really great. So that's it for teen books.
Uh-oh.
Moving on to adult.
I like that look. She's got that look.
So serious.
So we talked about dystopias earlier on. Another major genre right now is urban fantasy. And this is Anne Bishop's first urban fantasy book, written in red. This is the first book in a series. The second comes out next month, March 4th, I believe. And it is creepy and wonderful. And it's set in a world where humans aren't the dominant species. The supernatural, the werewolves and the vampires, and the things that are scarier than werewolves and vampires are the dominant species. And humans are kind of allowed to live, and they have their cities, which are kind of like reservations. And it's about one woman who's escaping something terrible and ends up in an Others. This is a novel of the Others enclave, and realizes that the vampires and the werewolves are there as a buffer between what's human and what's even scarier than a vampire and a werewolf. And it's one of the best depictions of werewolves that I have read in a very long time. And this is another one that sucked me in, and I read it all night. And it's got a bit of a love story in it, but it's kind of a weird love story, and it can get pretty graphic and violent. I know a lot of people like that. Second one is called
Murder of Crows.
Murder of Crows.
I will never read these books
No.
because they scare me, but it is making its way through our library, and everyone is beyond excited for the sequel.
Yes.
Like, this is the book everyone's talking about.
I read
Really?
it. Yeah. I read it last week, and it was amazing.
So you love creepy and wonderful and all the...
I like creepy and wonderful, and the nice thing about this series is every book has its own story, so you're not cliffhangered at the end, so you don't get to the end of the book and you're like, what happens next? And they have to wait an entire year. So each story... It's awful. I hate that.
Stand on its own.
Yes, it can stand on its own, and then there's a bigger overarching story that's starting to come together, so you don't have to feel like you're going to read this and then kind of be left hanging, which is wonderful. And the other one I actually don't have with me, but I asked my colleagues at work what they wanted to recommend, and I got The Heart of the Plate by Molly Katzen, which is a vegetarian cookbook. I am not vegetarian at all,
My son Michael is, so he would love
there you
this.
Go.
He would celebrate you and your
There
colleagues.
you go. So Molly Katzen wrote the Moosewood Cookbook, which is a classic. And this is a new one. There's a lot more ethnic recipes in it. It's really kind of brought up to date. And what I've been told is that it's really great because the recipes are simple and easy to follow, but they allow you to experiment. And it's not just meat substitute stuff. It's instead of like a steak, you will have a seitan roast. It really kind of teaches you to see grains and vegetables as their own kind of star.
Because most vegetarian cookbooks, it's like, how do you put cheese on things?
Right.
Let's put cheese on a potato. Let's put cheese on cauliflower.
Rachel's actually the expert. She's been a vegetarian for as long as I've known her. So if she cooked, I would give her this book.
I cooked.
You could cook for her.
This could
Not going to happen.
No.
But I think for a lot of people, I don't know if you feel like this, but for my son Michael, he's never had meat. So he doesn't want to have the tofu that looks like meat because he doesn't like meat. He's never had it. So.
Right. So this kind of gives you that, you know what? Grains are amazing. So that gives you a little bit more.
Grains are amazing.
Grains
and just like there's more occupations than doctor and accountant, there are more vegetables than celery and carrots, it turns out.
I have discovered quinoa. It's actually pretty good.
Said like a true vegetarian. There you go. It's like running for vegan office here.
This is the woman who
Don't forget leeks.
Yes. Yeah, but I have to say, every year she eats tofurkey. So
you make it sound so good.
So good. So wonderful.
So the last
finally,
one here?
and I had to throw this in here, it is not a recent release, but this is Auntie Mame. Came out in 1955. It is still an absolute classic of American humor. It's about this kid whose parents die and he goes to live with his fabulous Aunt Mame. There's been a couple of movies based on it. Yeah, Auntie Mame.
Don't see the Lucille Ball version.
Yeah.
Watch the Rosalind Russell version. It's fabulous. If you want an eccentric character who does fabulous and exciting things, counterbalanced with a young boy who's just very straight-laced and
all he wants to be is normal and hates the fact that his aunt is so out there and she's constantly reinventing herself. And it's got all these themes that resonate today. I mean, there's alternative schooling, there's unwed parents, there's, you know, someone who's just decided she's going to go off and be a geisha for a while. And okay, that might not be as relevant for today, but the other stuff is. But this is, I read this for the first time about 10 years ago, and I laughed my way through the entire thing. When I love it rereading it. The movie, again, I watch over and over again. So if you just want, like, this is such a gray winter and there's so much snow and you just kind of want to curl up and read a book that's going to make you happy, this is really kind of comfort reading and it'll make you laugh all the way through.
Well, that will make you happy, and I want to thank you so much, Rachel and Dina. But one thing that's making us a little sad here at WMCN is that our beloved senior producer, Tess Brown, this is her last, there she is. We got a shot of her in the control room. She wouldn't come out here. But we love Tess, world-class producer, award-winning producer, with CN8 for many years before coming here to the Dawn Show and to WMCN TV. And we love you, Tess. Tess and her husband, Mike, are moving south. Probably won't have these snowstorms and that sort of thing. But we wanted to express our love, even though you won't come out here. And we have a cake for you, Tessie. She's in we wear this earpiece, so she's like, I love you too, she's telling me. But we love Tess. Everybody wish her well. And I'm glad we had our library lady friends on to wish her well.
Thanks for having us. Yeah. You've always been really nice to us, Tess. Thank you.
And she still wants updates on good books to read, she says. So thanks a million. And it's the year of Shakespeare, so we'll get there with our Yards beer. Thank you so much, ladies. And thank you. I hope you make it a good one. And to Tess and to Mike, we love you and well wishes as you move on south. Have a great one, everybody.